Anyway, I'm up for a Q&A for a little bit if anybody's up for that too.
Thank you so much, Anthony, for all that information. Greatly appreciate it. So now we're gonna begin our Q&A. We'll take some questions from the audience. I have some questions for you. Before we get started, I just want to go over a couple of really quick things. We don't take questions directly from the chat. If you're not familiar with how to engage us, you're going to raise your hand by going to the reactions button and clicking on the raise hand function. I'll call on you, ask you where you're from, and to ask your question. And we just ask that your questions are brief and on topic. So just so I'm clear with what you're saying with regard to the blood tests, should people just strive to have the phlebotomist take less blood and have them do the tests, or do you recommend that they do different diagnostic tests to figure out what their issue is?
I think the diagnostic tests are going to be the same. There'll always be enough blood for whatever the doctor's offering, whatever the doctor's recommending and ordering. So I think you're good there. It's really about the phlebotomist. It's really about the nurse or phlebotomist, depending on where you're getting your blood. A lot of doctors still take blood in office, in their clinics, and that they're still doing that. A lot of doctors are just outsourcing, so they send you to a place where you get your blood drawn. And it's about telling the phlebotomist, look, I'm sensitive. I've been chronically sick for a long time. Can we do half vials? And you'll be surprised. There are phlebotomists that'd be like, I'll do a quarter vial. And they know the blood labs will take it. They actually know this. But you'll also get phlebotomists that be like, no, ma'am, no, sir, we need full vials or they won't take it. That's not true. That's not accurate. So it's about going into battle, being your own advocate. You go into battle with the phlebotomist. You say, look, I still need you to take half vials or do less vials. And you tell the phlebotomist that only take 2 to 3 vials. Then, it's a good rule of thumb. Talk to your doctor and say, look, I don't want a lot of blood drawn. How can we do this efficiently for you, safely for me? And that's a great way of handling it as well. Talk to your doctor. If you can't talk to your doctor about this, then that's a red flag. Like if you can't have a discussion. Now, I talk to a lot of doctors, and there's a lot of doctors now being mindful because of this information just from this book alone. And if you can't have a dialogue with your doctor about this and say, look, is there any way you can do 2 or 3 vials for the test you need, and then I come back again, recharge up, learn how to take care of myself, come back for if you need that much testing done, I can come for 2 or 3 more vials. But there's ways of doing it, or asking your doctor, can I ask for half tubes each time? A lot of doctors now they're fine with that. They're learning now from what's happening because this is going around the world, and they're seeing it makes sense. There's incredible doctors that only want to help their patient, and if something makes that much sense, they actually awaken to it. So yeah.
Great. Okay, our next question is going to come from Jennifer. Where are you from, and what is your question?
Hi, Michael. Hi, Anthony. I'm Jennifer from New York. I've been a fan and a follower since your first book. I thank you for all you do. I've been on a healing journey for over 20 years. I healed a diagnosis of Hashimoto's, was able to get the antibody levels down to undetectable. I just feel like I never fully healed 100%. I got pregnant and then I was nursing. And so that took some years out of focus. And I still have nodules. And most especially the last year or so, I've really been dealing with some stomach issues. It's been many years since I had blood work. And I was thinking, should I get blood work again? Should I see what's going on? But when I saw you were on today, I was really hoping maybe you and Spirit could take a look and tell me what's the root and what's really going on and what I really need to do and what's most important.
There's nothing wrong with asking your doctor for a little blood work. If you haven't done it in a long time, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, ask your doctor and see what your doctor feels about it, or see what your doctor thinks. If you haven't talked to your doctor in a long time, you can always just reconnect. If you liked your doctor, he or she, and you can reconnect and just say, you can say to them, like, can we do a little blood work and see what they think and see what they recommend and get a little window into what's going on? That's fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it at all. And I understand, what pregnancy and nursing and how that can shift gears and have you in a different direction while you're doing your healing and all the things that you're doing. Um, but Jennifer, you're saying you haven't been to the doctor, you haven't had blood work in a long time.
Well, I don't see conventional doctors. I have alternative doctors, but I haven't had blood work in a while.
I mean, it's all about alternative doctors. They'll also, do a script for blood work too. They'll order
I just
some
feel
blood
like
work.
I'm like shooting in the dark. I don't know what's the issue, especially with the stomach.
I think talking to your doctor and just throwing it at your doctor, saying you're worried, you're concerned, you're worried about your stomach or what's happening and what's going on. And if your doctor's like, well, we'd love to take some blood, at least you know how to do it. At least you know what to ask them and get a little window into something, especially if it's been a long time. I think there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, and you can always ask your doctor to to overall it. Well, okay, if it's been a long time, keep in mind that I think that over the years, a lot has changed within the medical communities right now. And there are much more compassionate doctors than I've ever seen, and there are a lot of sick people now, more than there ever was. And what's happening, there is a shift of what's happening. So if you don't see you don't go to conventional medicine doctors because you have experience from years in the past. You don't even see alternative medicine doctors really because you've experienced things in the past. But I think it's a good idea just to see if you can connect with somebody and bounce some stuff off of them, because so many people have gotten sick just in the last 5 years. It's unbelievable. And so many doctors are now really getting more compassionate than I've ever seen. And that combination is happening. And I think just touching base with someone and talking about and see what happens, see how it feels, see what you're hearing and see how it feels. I mean, I would start there for sure.
Great. Thank you for that one. Question for you, Anthony. What would you suggest is the number one thing people need to add in right now, and the number one thing that people should avoid right now for general health?
Well, there are so many things. I'm not a big fan of natural flavors and flavorings. That alone, it just scares the hell out of me. So when you see that on supplement brands, supplement bottles, foods, snacks, whatever, that's something, drinks, something to be concerned about. I think if you're somebody that's really health conscious, that's one thing to be wise to. A lot of reasons I've talked about in the books and in the past, all these years. Another thing would be if you're really sick with chronic illness, stay away from eggs if you can. That's a big one right there. Eggs tend to, and this is medical meme information, but they tend to feed all the different pathogens that are inside people that are responsible for a lot of people not healing, a lot of people being sick. So that's something I would be concerned about. But I know that every time I talk about eggs, I know people do get upset, but I realize there could be a lot of vegans here. But vegans tend to go back to eggs. If they're sick long enough as a vegan, they tend to, the first food they eat is eggs. And I always tell vegans that leave veganism, or plant-based people that leave plant-basedism, however you call it, I always tell them, don't run to eggs if you're not healing because you went plant-based or something, or you're not healing because you went vegan. Don't just quickly run to eggs. It's not the answer. It's not the place to go. So that's a food all on its own. But the reason being, I'm not just going to throw out and blast off like all these inflammatory foods that now alternative medicine deems as inflammatory, that didn't deem that years ago. There's a reason if I say stay away from eggs. It's actually an incredible reason. Is, for example, it will feed all the different viruses and pathogens and bacteria that are inside people's bodies, the streptococcal, all of that stuff, and it'll cause them to get sicker over time, even if you don't notice it right away and an egg feels good. But same thing with gluten. No one knew gluten actually fed any bugs, but it does. It feeds pathogens as well. Info originally going back, but the point is that these are the reasons, not, hey, stay away from these inflammatory foods. I'm just giving people a couple examples if they're struggling with chronic illness. These are the reasons. The egg and, say, gluten will feed the very bugs that are responsible for autoimmune chronic illness. So the gluten's not the problem. The egg's not the problem. It's not that at all. It just happens to be a food source for pathogens.
Thank you. And what about something positive to consume that would be beneficial?
Something beneficial, wild blueberries. That's a really great one. I think people get confused with the clamshell, pint-sized clamshell you find in the grocery store. That's the blueberry. Blueberries are healthy, but a blueberry won't touch what a wild blueberry harbors and holds. So they're not the same, far from it. They're so far from it. Look, the wild blueberry is a very powerful food for so many reasons in the body. It's not just its undiscovered phytochemical compound levels that it has that it harbors, but it's more than that. It's perseverance as an adaptogenic food, surviving thousands upon thousands of years. It doesn't have to rely on the farmer to do everything for it, like like a regular cultivated blueberry, which is the big blueberry. So that's a great one all on its own. Wild blueberries, of course, I'm a big advocate for celery juice. I'm not saying celery juice is the end all and be all, but I am saying it has changed the lives of millions of people when juicing wouldn't change their lives. It's just, and so the celery juice is a great one if you can. If not, but these are a couple of different things right here. Don't be afraid of potatoes if you're a cooked vegan. If you're a raw vegan, obviously you're not going to eat a cooked potato. But if you're a cooked vegan and you do cooked foods, then yeah, the potato is a great one for a lot of people with all kinds of different conditions, including intestinal conditions and everything. And not to worry. I always tell people, don't worry about the nightshade aspect of a potato. That's been misinformation going all the way back. But as far as, I know I'm probably hitting a lot of buttons in people in the moment with this and just rambling off, but if you're raw plant-based, bringing in leafy greens is critical. So if you're someone even if you're someone who's just cooked vegan, or you're half and half, or whatever you are, leafy greens are critical. I noticed that in the vegan movement, it was just really romaine lettuce going all the way back many years ago. And I never thought that was the best idea. I think lettuces are great, but you want to get your parsley in larger amounts. You want to get your cilantro in larger amounts, though, like as if that's your salad. You're eating your leafy herb as leafy green. Like you're eating larger amounts of cilantro, parsley, mache, spinach, arugula, and getting more of that in if you can than lettuce. If you can, if it sits right with you and you feel good about it. But leafy greens are a big one too. So anyway.
All right, and we've got about 2 minutes left. If you mind, if you don't mind, I'm going to take one more audience member question. Hey, Gray, you can ask your question. Say where you're from.
Yes, thank you. Hi, Anthony. My name is Kathy. I'm from Virginia, and I'm 66 on a whole plant-based diet for many years. We grow a lot of our own sprouts, lettuces, greens, do quite a few nuts and seeds after soaking them and whatnot. But I've been hypothyroidism for many years. Found out I have a sensitivity to nightshades. I had shingles a few years ago, and a current therapist I'm going to, who does morphogenic field technique, muscle response testing, suggested Epstein-Barr. So my daughter just gave me 2 of your books, and I haven't started reading them yet, but I glanced through them and saw some information on Epstein-Barr. So I'm just curious what you would have to say or suggest.
And we have 1 minute left.
If you have the books, the one thing about the books that's really interesting and is that it there's so much information in there that you can customize. And I tell people to be your own detective. That's critical. Whether you have a doctor, you have a practitioner, you got a healer, acupuncturist, whoever, naturopath, you still always want to also be your own detective too, because your doctor can't live at home. Your practitioner can't live inside your body. Your health coach can't live inside your body at your home or just be there every minute, every day and watch everything you do and everything else. So it's always good because we only see our practitioners for just minutes basically out of our life. It's critical that you become your own detective. And what I love about the Medical Medium books is you can do that. You can see what you can customize and you can find your way in there because there's that much detailed information. It's all in the details. And if you really do know, like it sounds like you do, Kathy, it sounds like you know your gardens, you know your sprouts, you know everything you're growing, you know how you're eating, you know what you're feeling, you're somebody that's really tuned in and seasoned. And that's what the Medical Medium books are for too. They're for that person who's seasoned all the way. And then you can customize what you want out of the books to add to what you're doing. And that's what I always recommend.
Great. And with that ends our Q&A. Anthony, thank you so much for all the information that you shared today. I know that many of our audience greatly appreciate it. If please unmute the audience, please.
Hello, everyone.